I declare the meeting open and welcome you to this month's council meeting. The recording of this council meeting will be available to the public on council's website for a minimum period of 6 months. In accordance with the council's policy, I will now ask the staff to confirm that the recording has commenced.
Yes, it has, Mayor.
Thank you. We would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the South East Nation, the Malakadee people of the Orne River and the Lilliquanni people of the far south. We recognise their continuing connection to land, water and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past and present. Tonight we have with us Councillor and Deputy Mayor Toby Thorpe, Councillor Armstrong, Councillor Jessup, Councillor Temby, Councillor Gibson, Councillor O'Neill and Councillor Canberra-Smith. General Manager, would you like to introduce your staff?
Thank you, Mayor. I would. Tonight we have support staff, Acting Manager of ICT, Callan Finch, Media and Communications Coordinator, Kelly Davis, our Executive Assistant, Sandy Rostel, our Executive Team, Matt Grimsey, Director of Governance Strategy and Sustainable Development, Lyle Ground, Acting Director of Community Wellbeing Services, and Sue McCarter, Acting Director of Infrastructure, Climate and Environment Services. And a very special welcome to Patty Johnson, who joins us for her first council meeting as our new Director of People and Corporate Services. So welcome, Patty.
Thank you, Patty. Okay, 2.1 apologies. Tonight we have an apology from Councillor Andrew Burgess. 2.2 leave of absence. We have none to, nope. And 2.3 absent. 3 declaration of interest. Councillors, does anyone wish to declare an interest? No? Good. 4, confirmation of minutes. 4.001/23, the recommendation is, do I have a councillor to move that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of council Wednesday 25th of October 2023 as circulated be confirmed? Councillor Armstrong and a seconder. Councillor O'Neill. Do any councillors wish to report any changes? No. Okay, well I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all councillors present and the motion is carried. 5, legislative items. Acting General Manager, are there any legislative items?
Not tonight, no.
Urgent matters. I understand there is an urgent matter.
There is, yes.
And I will hand that over to Director, if I may.
Thank you, Mayor. The General Manager brings forward the matter of Development Assessment Panel, DAP, Framework Position Paper. In accordance with Regulation 8.6 of the Local Government Meeting Procedures Regulations 2015, the General Manager reports that the matter was not included on the agenda for the meeting as it was not brought to officer attention until the week before the council meeting and the submission could not be completed in time for the agenda. The matter is urgent as comment is due 30 November 2023. Qualified advice is provided for councillors by way of a report to the council. The recommendation, Mayor, is pursuant to Regulation 8.6 of the Local Government Meeting Procedures Regulations 2015, the urgent matter of Development Assessment Panel, DAP, Framework Position Paper to be listed on the agenda for discussion as agenda item 15.043/23, Mayor.
Thank you. So do I have someone to move that recommendation? Councillor? Yep. Councillor Temby. Oh dear. So we don't have to do any of that. That was Councillor, I can't think of his name now. Jessup. No. Yep, I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all councillors, and the motion is carried. Mayor's announcements. I have one announcement to make, and that's the Condé Nast Traveller Best Place to Go. For the 10th year running, Condé Nast Traveller has presented their annual list of must-visit destinations for the year ahead. In a first, they have expanded their effort by producing guides covering every single continent, covering even more inspiration for keen travellers throughout the world. The Huon Valley has been recognised in the inaugural Best Places to Go in 2024 list for Australia, New Zealand and the South Pacific. Listed alongside notable destinations like Fiji, French Polynesia, the Kimberley, Yarra Valley and the South Island in New Zealand and many others. An extensive network of travel writers have curated the list based on their first-hand experience and awareness of such destinations. The recognition comes off the back of the Huon Valley brand marketing strategy, where for the past 4 years the Council has been working collaboratively with the local tourism sector, helping to raise awareness of the region, promoting the unique and authentic qualities visitors experience in the Huon Valley. Our marketing efforts over this time have attracted coverage in a wide range of publications, including The Australian, National Geographic, Qantas Magazine, Escape, Explore, Australian Traveller and many more. We have actively supported freelance writers and journalists to come and visit to experience the region firsthand, allowing them to confidently write about their experiences and share this with their audiences. The experiences provided throughout our visiting journalist program are no different to what any normal average visitor to the region would come to experience. The articles written are therefore as authentic and genuine as the experiences available. In the case of the Condé Nast Traveller, this recognition has been generated without any paid or financial incentive. This kind of recognition cannot be brought and is entirely unsolicited. Without having generated wide interest in the destination by putting the Huon Valley in the forefront of the minds of travel writers around the world, this kind of recognition would not be possible. We'd like to thank our local tourist operators, the Huon Valley Tourism Network, Impressive Marketing Communications and Tourism Tasmania for supporting our efforts in hosting visiting journalists and promoting the region to the world, and of course Condé Nast Traveller for this amazing opportunity. So well done to the team there. I also believe Councillor Thorpe has something to say as well.
Thanks, Mayor. I just wanted to express a huge congratulations to the Huon Agricultural Society for pulling off another successful Huon show this year. I think it was a fantastic event, and I think that a lot of credit goes to the volunteer hours and commitment behind pulling off an event like that. So Lisa Ploll, the President of the Agricultural Society and her team, but also acknowledge the number of staff from the Huon Valley Council that volunteered their time there in a huge range of roles, from Michelle with the Food Hub, Ange Barrington with the Small Farms Expo, Sandy doing afternoon tea for the volunteers, and countless amount of staff that actually volunteered their time over the weekend to be there as well. I just wanted to say thank you and well done.
Thank you. Okay, public participation, 8.1, public question time. There was one question taken on notice at October's council meeting, and that answer is on our website for all to see. 8.2, there was no questions given on notice for tonight's meeting. 8.1.3, without notice, via email, we had 5 questions. One from Mr. Swan, one from Irene Swan, one from Jurgen Harder, one from Pat Sins. The responses are the same. The questions are on our website and included in the minutes. From the gallery, welcome to public question time. If you have a question, as the chair, I will ask you to come forward. You know the drill now. All questions must be directed to me as the chairperson. Debate on questions cannot be entered into. So, is there anyone that'd like to ask a question? Yes, you might move up to the...
Good evening all. Jeff Abbott from Main Street.
Thank you.
The council has agreed to having a lot of new residences in the area,
Yeah.
and you've been providing flood relief to them to, I would say, lots of thousands of dollars. There is a drain that runs from it runs from way up the top and runs past Shield Street through the back of properties, through next door at 74, through my property at 72, next door at 70, and then runs at the back of the RSL Club. I would like to know why the council has not put in a drainage system with piping, which they were supposed to do by 2019, because it's an occupation and health and safety issue, and we get flooded. Every time it rains, we get flooded. And yet you were prepared to let everybody else have flood mitigation, and we don't. So I'd just like to know why the council hasn't provided a proper drainage system for these properties in Main Street.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you for your question. Sandra, did you get that question from the gentleman? Yep, lovely. Okay. I will pass that over to the acting general manager. Yeah. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, look, thanks for your question. And I completely appreciate your concern. It is far from ideal to have an open drain running behind properties just off our main street. Council has obviously made a significant investment into the main drain system, that wider connected system in behind Huonville, and we have done post-implementation studies that have taken an extensive amount of time, which includes the drain that you're referring to, and I expect that we will be putting that forward as a capital works provision in upcoming capital works programs. Well, we'll be putting it forward this year, and that'll be amongst a whole bunch of other capital works programs that are, we've got competing priorities all over the valley. So that'll be up to councillors and the level of risk that we assign to it.
Okay, do I have another councillor? Oh, sorry, another person that'd like to. Yes.
Liz Smith, Signet. I refer to item 12 on council agenda, council workshops. At the council workshop on November the 15th, the Manager of Economic Development provided an update for councillors regarding the current status of the Dark Labs transformer development at Ida Bay, and led a discussion to ascertain interest in supporting the project, with particular interest in regard to partnering with Dark Lab in attracting funding to enable the project to progress. I have a couple of related questions. Firstly, how much funding was originally allocated to the Transformer project to support the Huon Valley following the 2019 bushfires, and what is the project now? What is the projected cost of the project now?
Thank you. That's
And I've got a follow-on question.
okay. Yep.
Do you want to take them
Yes,
separately?
Yep. No, you're right.
Okay, in view of the passage of time and the ongoing community-led recovery in the valley, and following discussion at the workshop, was there consensus among councillors about supporting and allocating funding either directly to the project and or partnering with Dark Lab to assist in attracting external funding?
Thank you. Okay. I'll pass that over to the director, if I may.
Through you, Mayor, we don't have the particular figures in relation to what was promised them in 2019, so we'll have to
Sorry,
take
could
both
you?
of...
I couldn't hear. I'm sorry.
we don't have those figures just immediately available to us, so we'll have to take the matters in relation to figures on notice. In relation to your third question, can you please repeat that?
Yes. I said that in view of the passage of time and the ongoing community-led recovery in the valley, and following discussion at the workshop, was there consensus among councillors about supporting and allocating funding either directly to the project and or partnering with Dark Lab to assist in attracting external funding?
I can answer that one. We left it up to the officers to come back to us with the costings for what it would be for an officer, the expenses of that. That was correct, wasn't it? To be involved in that project. For what we've put into the project so far, it's only been the money that was granted to them, and the request wasn't for money value. It was for us to support them in a grant through the grant program. Wasn't for us to put money in ourselves.
Right.
So, okay. But if we did that, we'd have to have an officer to do the grant and work with that. So we've asked the council to come back to us with a costing on that to see whether we'll go any further with that.
Okay, so when it says led a discussion to ascertain interest in supporting the project, that didn't refer to financial support
That's
for
correct.
the project.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. No worries. Do I have, yes?
Thank you, Mayor. Nigel Goodwin from Woodstock. After hearing the discussions about the use of glyphosate at the last ordinary council meeting, I felt a bit compelled to make a few comments on that. There was a few comments made that were a bit ridiculous as far as and unfair to the farming community, and particularly potato growers. The farming community does use glyphosate for weed control, but farmers that produce goods for consumption have to complete a chemical use course to ensure it is used correctly. And this is part of the procedure that's put in by Woolworths, Coles, anyone that does a major buying of that stuff. The potato growers aren't required to do this course, but they are audited by their receivers of the produce, and their produce is also tested for chemical residue and really strict in the use of. They do have to keep records of when they spray, what they spray with, and even weather conditions at the time. Glyphosate is used to kill off old pasture approximately 4 months prior to planting of potatoes. It is used at the dilution rate of about 1 in 400, which works out at 1 litre per hectare of ground. When Roundup is used for spot spraying, as the council use, the minimum ratio is normally 1 in 100 and maybe more stronger than that. The amount of diesel used to apply 1 litre of 1 hectare of spray is about 2 litres of diesel fuel. If it is not sprayed, an additional 4 cultivations of the soil would be required, adding up to about 55 litres of fuel, which, obviously for obvious reasons, it's got to be a good thing. Glyphosate has never been used to kill off potato tops prior to harvest. To do so, it would not only kill the tops, but it would also kill the tubers. That's not much good if you're growing
No.
potatoes for seeds.
That's right. Is there a question?
There is.
Yep, okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. That's all I was just making sure.
Okay, so, not much good for growing. Pre-emergent weed control is achieved by one application of a chemical called Soleto. It's a new generation of herbicide, very safe for the operator and environment, not even on the poisons register. To eliminate the tops before harvest, it is mechanically mulched, followed by spraying with one called Spotlight, a non-residual herbicide especially developed for this purpose. Mayor, I suppose I'll ask a question here. If any councillors are going to make comments like this, could they do proper research, talk to the growers, and not just get the information from biased internet sites?
No problems. I will pass, well, they've all heard it. So thank you very much. Yep, thank you. Do I have anyone else that has a question? Yes. Yes, you may.
Amy Robertson from Port Huon.
Thanks, Amy.
In Council's Customer Service Charter, complaints are currently dealt with by the Director of the relevant department, and this arrangement's proposed to continue. The Commonwealth Ombudsman recommends that a complaint system should include a dedicated unit or branch shown on the organisational chart. It should be headed by or report directly to a senior manager. Does Council have a system for tracking lodged complaints through this delegated departmental response system and collating outcomes to meet its statutory annual reporting requirements on complaints? And is it satisfied that the delegated process is adequately trained and resourced to provide a quality response that takes advantage of the improvement opportunities that complaints offer and isn't compromised by conflicts of interest through closer relationships to the operations subject to a complaint? My suggestion is that perhaps central oversight by a part of Council with appropriate jurisdiction, perhaps HR or governance, might be more efficient and effective.
Thank you, Amy. Pass that through. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Through you, Mayor, the system is coordinated through the governance area. The dealing with individual complaints through directors ensures that what you have is specialist area expertise, which can be extremely difficult when we have the complexity of what council deals with just being done in the one area. Certainly, we've had discussions about wanting to work toward the process that you have outlined. We don't have that structure in place yet, but it's something that we are looking at. But again, it still needs that specialist area input. Now, the second question is what?
Conflict of interest. I think the policy suggests the departmental people are responsible for dealing with complaints. So there isn't mention of anything central.
The director is responsible for the review and response. It's not the people who are necessarily doing the work in that, if that makes sense. And I think you mentioned something about training, which is something that we've also identified as a need, and improving our general overall complaint system.
Okay, do I have any other questions? Yes, you can come forward, Amy.
Amy Robertson, Port Huon. Council has many strategies expired or overdue for review. I don't need to list them. How does Council propose to prioritise and catch up on these key documents? Has it identified a process to stay up to date? And will it take more ownership of this issue, perhaps reducing its current heavy reliance on expensive and ad hoc consultancies?
Through to you, Gentleman, Acting General Manager.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Yes, we do have a number of strategies that are going on longer than we would wish them to. I think we've been ambitious in scope across the board, and it is a problem that we acknowledge, and it's something that the executive team are looking at, and we'll certainly be working through with councillors on how we narrow our focus as we move forward and focus on quality and actually getting things finished rather than many things in play. But we don't yet have a clear plan about how we close out the many strategies that, as you point out, are currently still underway, other than just continuing to work through those, report on them. At an executive level, whilst we work towards a plan, we have implemented some changes to improve our governance of these projects. So just taking a more common sense business approach to tracking, reporting on, and getting our teams to be able to be supported in delivering of strategies.
I think that the Director has something else to say. Yep.
And through you, Mayor, just to add to that, Council is going through a strategic planning process at the moment, which commenced with the community vision, moving on to the strategic plan. What we want to be doing with the strategies is ensuring that they link to, as much as possible, achieving the strategic objectives of the strategic plan, which may see some strategies not required, other strategies may be combined together in focus, and also the aim is to have them be council strategies and not just simply confined to the area that they're developed in. So everybody will be working within council towards achieving those strategic outcomes.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any others? No? Okay, we'll move on. Thank you. 8.2, deputations. Acting General Manager, are there any deputations? No. Petitions?
No.
Planning Authority reports?
None tonight.
None tonight. Thank you. 11, general reports. Are there any councillors tabling their activities tonight?
Yes, ma'am.
Yep. Would anyone like to speak to their activities? Yep.
Just a quick one. Unfortunately, I couldn't get to do the Hilltop run, unfortunately, but I did go to the gala, and I just want to congratulate Deputy Mayor Thorpe and yourself for pulling together a really good event and raising a lot of funds, and it was an enjoyable night, and well done for the mental health of particularly young people in the Huon Valley. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any others? No? You're right. Okay. So I'll, the 11.011/23, the recommendation. Do I have a councillor to move a motion that the general reports and minutes for the period of 1 to 31 October 23 be received and noted, please? Councillor Campbell-Smith, and seconded by Armstrong. Do you wish to speak to those, Councillor Campbell-Smith?
Only very briefly.
Yeah.
I was just pleased to see in a couple of the delegated planning decisions that we'd agreed to include shade trees in one of those in response to a representation. But I noticed it also says street trees are not part of our sort of subdivision policy, so perhaps it's something we could think about going forward. Maybe review, the way in which we put together our landscaping recommendations when we're reviewing planning. I was also sort of just looking through the various planning issues. I do think, I know this has been raised before, and it's related to the development of our land use and development strategy. I think we perhaps do need to think about putting the time and the energy into getting together a list and a map of zombie subdivisions. They keep sort of popping up all the time. People of Port Huon, for instance, talking about the potential for hundreds more houses there, which I don't think we've satisfactorily answered. And I'm not sure how we can finalise the tables on housing needs, etc., in the LUDs until we have a better handle on, developments that have already been approved and perhaps been given a substantial commencement, but that might have happened years and years ago. So just food for thought, really.
Okay. Do I have any other councillor to? Yes, Councillor Armstrong.
Sorry, through your Mayor, stupid question. What is a zombie? Is that? Can you define what that?
Yeah.
I don't know what a zombie subdivision means.
Through you, Mayor, I think what's referred to as a zombie subdivision is a subdivision that was approved a long time ago,
Right.
may have commenced and become valid because it initiated stage 1,
Right.
which may have been 1 or 2 lots, but still has 3 or 4 stages still available and
Yep.
a substantial amount of lots that go with that.
Okay, so there's a lot of those around then, isn't there? Sort of. Well, there has been a few of those occurring, haven't they? There you go. That's all right. I thought it meant something completely different, so I'm glad you confirmed that.
Thank you. Councillor Temby.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say thank you to and congratulations to Operations for the great teamwork during the clean-up after the storm damage. I also note, with regards to parks and reserves, I've heard some very positive feedback from the Garden Club regarding community and council working together on tree plantings, and also recently at the I think this is probably not the operational report, but I also wanted to make mention of the council's participation at the recent Christmas parade function, and that was a great community event. I also note that Resolution 13.013, which was the resolution taking on a licence to include the riparian zone of Crown Land Reserve in Ranelagh, says that the advice that we sought is to be prepared and submitted for councillors' consideration. Can we have a date for that? Because it would be great to have the advice by February 24 to allow time for a decision prior to the April name change of that Landcare group.
Through to you, Acting General Manager.
I'll get you a date. I don't have a date available right now.
Yes, Councillor Jessup.
Thank you, Mayor. I note some of the capital works projects mentioned in the report, but I was asked recently if there's any start date on the Port Huon jetty redevelopment. Do we have a vague start date on that?
Yeah, Shipwrights Point.
Oh,
yeah.
Shipwrights Point.
Yeah,
sorry.
we, yeah, okay. I'll pass that. I was going to say, we just really are receiving noting here, but we can we answer that one?
Sure.
Yep.
We're freestyle tonight.
Yep.
Yep. We don't have a start date on that. We're still in a design process, design and costing. Oh yeah, it's well and truly started, and it's look, the layout, the pontoons, are an off-the-shelf solution. It's the geotech and the driving of piles that need some decent engineering work.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Camber-Smith, have you got any closing?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, that's the case. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all, councillors present. The motion is carried. 12, councillor workshops. Acting General Manager, would you like to advise on the workshops that have been held? Please.
Yes, so we had the Transformer project update, which has been noted here tonight in question time. I'll say again that support was non-financial. It was support for the rationale for the project and in-kind officer time to help facilitate a grant. We had a land use development strategy workshop with the consultants providing a presentation and working through with councillors the feedback that had been received. And it was noted during that we had really excellent engagement from the community at large, differences of opinions as you would expect, but pretty high quality feedback, which was much appreciated and led to a good discussion. We also had a workshop on our independent living units, which is a part of council that probably a lot of ratepayers don't realise that we actually do. So we provide homes for elderly people to live and remain living in the valley. We've completed some findings from that from SGS, our consultant. And we looked at actions to provide services provide what our ongoing services in that business unit would look like.
Thank you. 13, councillor questions. 13.1, questions taken on notice. There was no questions taken on notice from October's meeting. 13.2, questions given on notice. There was no councillor questions given on notice for tonight's meeting. Questions without notice. Are there any councillors? Yes, Councillor Temby and then Councillor Camber-Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to ask a question about the having a discussion on the final Future of Local Government Review report submission, which is due 29th of February 2024. The report contains inadequate information to make an evidence-based decision on either amalgamation or shared services. Council notes that Kingborough have stated the scenario, which is scenario 2, amalgamation in full, increases the population base to approximately 59,000 residents, enabling economies of scale and better service delivery for our residents. Some of the Kingborough Mayor's claims in the media about the relative financial positions between Huon Valley and Kingborough do not accurately reflect the situation. Like all councils, including Kingborough, Huon Valley are pressed to maintain a sustainable financial position and meet our residents' service demands. However, Huon Valley Council is not in debt. We have a 10-year financial plan which has us returning to a budget surplus within the council term, and we are actively addressing service needs. I'd like to foreshadow a motion for the December meeting and ask for the General Manager to provide us with an update on progress, please.
Okay, do I have a second? No, don't need it? Okay. So a question? Yep, through to you. Yep.
Yeah, look, councillors have obviously spent some very good time talking to the executive about this subject since the report was dropped. We all have the view that there's gaps in the report, but I think we all also take the view that we want to be proactive and embrace the opportunity and explore with real evidence, not just throwaway lines. So look, the update is that we are ready to do your bidding, and I certainly suggest that a motion to take to Kingborough exploring an evidence-based approach to the future of local government is what we would like to do. So ultimately agree to terms of reference, what a scope would actually look like, and a sharing of information so that we're working with facts, and then can determine what, if anything, is in the best interests of Huon Valley residents as well as the residents of Kingborough, so that both councils can have a professional, well-informed response to the February deadline.
Thank you for that. That's great.
Yes, and we would like to bring in line with your foreshadowed motion, bring a report as such to the December meeting.
Councillor Camber-Smith? Yes.
There's two parts to this question, just to let you know. Could the acting General Manager please provide a detailed explanation of the events leading up to ERA Planning and Environment withdrawing from working with Huon Valley Council recently? ERA is a well-respected and experienced company with strength in depth, including a team of around 16 people. They had worked with us for several months on the development of our local provisions schedule and provided expert opinion to Tasmanian Planning Commission hearings. It concerns me that a company whose work I respect felt they could no longer work with council on these projects.
Okay, if I'd like to, there, have we?
Sorry?
That's it there, that's the...
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yes, so look, thanks for the question, Councillor Camber-Smith. Look, with regards to ERA's reasons for breaking ties with council, that is ultimately a matter for them. Council doesn't want to be making a statement on their behalf. With regards to the TPC hearings, again, it's a matter for the ERA to explain their position. from my perspective, ERA have supported us really well and have reached a decision based on their own professional values that they have other things to do, and we parted ways quite amicably.
Thank you. I'd very much like to hear ERA's own reasoning for being unable to work with us, or to continue that relationship at least until the end of the TPC hearings on the LPS. And I have asked in the past now a few times for, including having a conversation with our former GM, for a workshop on the LPS development and the implications to council and community on the various new zones in different regions. Such a workshop would be a great opportunity to hear from ERA on this subject.
I can answer that as well. Look, I think you know, a LUDS workshop is certainly welcomed by me. It would be something that councillors you know, need to agree upon, and we get it in the calendar. It's a critical piece of work. You know my position on that, so I would welcome it. It's over to you guys amongst all the priorities we've got. As far as ERA goes, I'm more than happy to contact them and ask them for a statement if they would like to provide a statement, and if they would like to participate in a workshop. Again, if that's the direction, we'll invite them.
That'd be fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, yes, Councillor Jessup.
I have a couple, Mayor, but just on the issue of the workshop by way, I think it's premature to do anything until we hear what the TPC thinks about a submission. You know, they've spent 27 days thinking about it, and I'm sure they will tell us what they think. So I think, you know, that would be a great time to, you know, get anyway. But just on the, I have two sort of related questions. One is following on from Councillor Temby's comments there. I also note that the report, the Future Local Government report, has not fully explored the range of services that a true rural council must offer their ratepayers. And we talk regularly about our medical centres, our pools, our so forth. And in the absence of being able to rely on the services run by our closer capital neighbours, so you know, it's down to us. The report has failed to provide the depth of analysis that the ratepayers of the Huon Valley deserves, in my opinion. So I think it's important that we look at all our neighbours, and just following on from Councillor Temby's thoughts, clearly Kingborough is in the mix, but I don't think we've actually had a wholesome discussion with Derwent Valley either, who has many similarities to us. Say, they have similar industries, they have companies that work across. My goodness, we might one day get a road over there. That would be marvellous. So I'm just, I suppose the question is that when we do look at a paper on a motion for next meeting, can we look about, do we meet with both Derwent Valley and Kingborough to have a proper round table with all our neighbours? So I suppose that's a question.
Well, I think ultimately it's a question that councillors need to resolve, of whether we want to open up that conversation to Derwent Valley as well. From my perspective, it's the exact same questions that need to be asked of Kingborough, and ultimately this is an information gathering process that may not lead to, look, it's exploring opportunities, whether they're amalgamation, whether they're sharing of services or otherwise. I think we need to be open arms to it, and I see no real risk in talking to Derwent Valley and having that same conversation as we would have to anyway with Kingborough. So really it's, if councillors give us the direction, as I said in foreshadowing that motion coming up to next 2 weeks' time council meeting, we'll be back doing it all again, then we can go and prepare and make the necessary inquiries of Derwent as well as Kingborough.
Just to let you know that I did notify the Kingborough Mayor and the Derwent Valley Mayor that they could very well be in our mention tonight in our council meeting. So they had the heads up on this, so they didn't get a call from the ABC and not know what they were talking about. So I did let them know.
Thank you, Mayor. To the second question, sorry.
Yep.
Just quickly on that, through you, Mayor, sorry. The any councillors want to make any statements or questions or anything on that directions before we move on? Or was your second question on related to this as well?
No, the second question about the asset stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yes.
Just to make sure we're on the
Councillor
same
Gibson?
page here.
Yes.
On that, I think we should be exploring options that all of a sudden.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yes. Councillor?
Yep, it'd be sort of silly of us not to explore all opportunities, and especially with a council that we have a lot in common with. So, yep,
Okay,
definitely support that.
definitely. Yes, Councillor Armstrong?
Sorry, thank you, Mayor. I'm really, I would just like to stay as we are, but I'm sure we probably would all like to stay as we are in an ideal world. But I think the public expect us to be sure of the decision that we make as well. So I think by exploring, you know, not just Kingborough, but going with Derwent as well, it will give us good comparison of where we sit, you know, financially, demographically and everything else. So I think for the sake of the public that think that we're not exploring enough, this will be a good move. So it might install some, you know, valuable information that we haven't actually got yet. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor?
I'd also just like to note that I think this is probably something we can discuss with the STCA as well, which I think is an important avenue.
Yep, thank you. Yes, so are we happy to add that, Councillor Temby? Are you happy to?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea. You know, like we really do need to be using evidence to base our decisions.
Yeah.
And if we can manage to get that evidence together, I think we will be better informed. So thank you. Yeah.
Right.
Lovely.
Well, yeah, and just to clarify, so we will reach out prior to next council meeting. We'll reach out to those both respective councils and start making some arrangements. That direction from you. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Jessup.
Thank you, Mayor. It's slightly longer, but only 329 words, just to let you know. The clock. I've obviously been having a detailed look at our assets and works program, and this sort of is a question but relates to a future report that we'll talk about in a moment. But as part of this, I also reviewed the Kingborough Council's October agenda, which I must say I was very impressed by the fancy graphic design of their agendas. Obviously, they have surplus capacity in their graphics department. And one of the interesting things was including pictures of completed projects in their report. And I note that our report is somewhat drier than that. And I thought that the capital works closure reports that we do would be a good place to maybe put some photos, because I note that we have an impressive capital works program, some $20 million that we're looking to spend over the next 12 months. And that's all across all parts of our municipality. I note that we've completed roadworks in Hayes, Able Bay, Mountain River Road and Agnes Street, as well as completed resheeting on Lonavale, Bermuda, Judge Creek, Seven Day, Narrows, Esperance Coast and Bakers Creek Road. So impressive. I also note there's still a fair whack of work to do there. We've got, we've had significant stormwater upgrades near completion, as well as completing office refits, toilets, upgrades to Verona Sands toilet, I think, and also upgrades to the Signet Hall and the Palais as well. I'm also pleased to see that the Dover Medical Centre is 75% expended, not 75% completed, but we've well and truly spending the money on the way. And I think, I don't get out to see all these places, but I think it would be really interesting to see them. Many of us have seen the footpath upgrades completed on Walton Street, the car park, Old Apple Court. But for me, I can't remember what the $300,000 on Church Street in Franklin was for. I think that's a bitumising from memory. But again, I'm less excited about the progress of some of our playgrounds and parks, noting that work's yet to be completed. But overall, Mayor, I think in our first year as a council, and this is the October report, so the first 12 months, we've spent $7.3 million in capital works. So, Mayor, my question, I suppose, have three subparts. Is it possible, are staff happy with the overall progress of the capital budget? And are there any particular concerns that staff want to bring back to us? That's the first question. Is there a reason that the parks and playgrounds works hasn't progressed, well, there hasn't been much spending on that? And thirdly, would it be a significant impost for staff in the report to include a photo in that report just of what the completed work was, so it just prompts our memory? So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Through to you, Acting General Manager.
I'll start and then I'll hand over to some of the team. Are we happy with progress? Yes, we are. I think we're tracking very well. We always have concerns, but none of them are red hot right now. But I think the best way to answer it is that it's not just photos at completion, which we have done at the moment in particularly infrastructure's highlights report, which isn't really the ideal sort of location, and the executive team certainly have some ideas on how we improve our reporting of the capital works in progress, including up to completion, and that's where you'd get that. We want to bring some richer information on how we're tracking and exactly have these conversations about where we are at risk or where we're kicking goals. So not an impost, a good idea and something we were thinking about anyway. So we will look to bring that forward. I'll throw for the parks and reserves stuff over to Sue. So Acting Director, Infrastructure, Climate and Environment, Sue McCarter.
Through you, Mayor. Thank you very much for the question. I think the other important thing to note with regards to the Capital Works in Progress report is that not all projects are expected to be delivered in the same financial year. So a number of them are expected to be delivered over a number of financial years. You'll actually see in the Capital Works report that the job numbers start with a 22, 23, 24, and that actually represents the year in which the finances were apportioned to the project. Just to give you an idea that some do transition over some years. We are tracking ahead of the trend this year with our roads program because we had exceptionally good weather in Q1 of this financial year, whereas traditionally we're not delivering roads projects until Q3 or 4, which is just a weather dependent activity. So there is a number of factors that play in where we're sitting in the delivery of those programs. With regards to the play equipment, that is expected to be delivered within the summer months. That's the ideal time for installation of those. And because we have already organised delivery and installation of those, they couldn't be brought forward earlier to be delivered in that Q1, where we could make those arrangements to bring those programs forward on the roads program. So that's just how the program is being delivering this year.
Thank you. Yes? Councillor Thorpe?
Yeah, the state government recently released the Huon Highway Kingston to Southport corridor strategy, which had a purpose to look at the performance of the Huon Highway from Kingston to Southport and find ways to improve the highway. The strategy identifies and prioritises projects that will provide a safer, consistent driving environment along this section of the highway, some of which, in my opinion, are favourable and some less favourable. But in the strategy, in the summary of engagement activities, it lists a meeting with Huon Valley councillors and council officers, and that was attended by both. And I'm just wondering if the Grove intersection was a priority area raised by council, and are the outcomes of this report satisfactory to what was expected out of the study?
Okay, thank you. Through to you, Acting General Manager.
Thanks for the question, Councillor Thorpe. Look, as the Acting General Manager, I was underwhelmed by the outcome of the report. That the Grove intersection was the #1 priority raised both in the workshop with DSG as well as in council's submission to the project. So our formal submission had 4 priority areas, and they were based on both our professional opinion but also in looking at the public feedback that had been provided to DSG, which was made available to us through those workshops. We looked at that and listened to the community and used that to help frame our response. And we went with 4 key areas in the hope that those 4 key areas would be given some precedence. As I said, Grove intersection was #1, and it's lost in the report at the moment. And we know it is a thoroughfare for children. There's people running across the road. It is look, it's an accident waiting to happen. We've also submitted it as for black spot funding. we're just not making progress, but we continue to bang the drum for it.
Pass that through to you, Director. You, no, you're right. Cool. No. Yes.
I have another question about roads as well. A common road issue that residents are raising with me, and I know some other councillors as well, including Councillor Temby, who we both actually recently attended a meeting with some concerned residents with this particular road, being the corner of Agnes and Marguerite Street in Ranelagh, with specific issues being raised around peak use times being unsafe, like the Huon Show weekend, with things like towing horse floats and things. Was something that I heard a lot about during my time at the Huon Show. So I'd like to know if Council has engaged with the Department of State Growth regarding the need to upgrade this particular area of road in Ranelagh, and if so, has this engagement been positive and solution focused?
I can take one too. Thanks for the question. Very happy to say DSG have been working positively with Council on this one. Again, we submitted it as for black spot funding. And we've got a related project under consideration for vulnerable road users, which is the surrounding footpath areas that go down to the Ranelagh Village Green, and looking to progress it as given Agnes Street is a state growth road and the footpath beside it, it sort of changes the relationship in asset ownership. So we are working closely with them, designing, costing what some options would be. They have supported us. They have in-house, designers for road alignments, etc. So they have been supporting us really quite well on this one, and that's been excellent because it's been a long-term issue that Council's been trying to bring to the fore.
And I think you realise it's not just, as Councillor Temby has often said, it's not just the show. When the chess was on, they had multiple people at the chess tournament and there was just cars everywhere. So there's a lot of events that they have in that area there. So yes, Councillor Temby.
Thank you. Just briefly, thanks for that, raising that, Councillor Thorpe. And it is also the fact that it's a highly increasing population base there. Yeah. It's a residential area. And I think that the speed limit along that road needs to be looked at as well. Yeah. As do the residents have been raising that with me as well.
Yeah, and I think that in having good conversation with the other departments enables those to flow. So yeah, it's good to know that they are talking on that one. So that's good. Okay. Oh, sorry, Councillor Gibson.
That's all right. I had two short questions.
Yep.
With the creation of the new bushfire radio network, there are aircraft operators as well as private timber reserve managers who are now left out of the communications system in an emergency, I believe. That's, I think, with the aircrafts due to the cost of buying the unit, and I think for the forestry managers, just distribution of the units. Could we write to state government requesting that they act and make sure that relevant private aircraft and ground crews who engage in bushfire control in our municipality will have access to the new network? Because Huon Valley is very, I mean, it's a bush municipality, and so the aircraft and those ground crews are really important. So
thank you for that.
One
we've
question.
been talking about this today.
Oh, have you?
But
Good.
yeah, not the radio, but the fire.
Yeah.
Comms are pretty important.
Related. I mean, the Mayor and I met with Colin Riley, the inspector, the police inspector for the local area, and our conversation was entirely about communications. I have been speaking with local volunteer firefighter fighters. Understand there are communication gaps within the radio network. The radio units are expensive. I think they're $8,000 for a unit, and they also have significant maintenance costs that are causing some challenges. It is a newly rolled out system, but we can't afford communication gaps
That's right.
in emergencies. So I know there's already urgency around this topic, but in line with what we discussed with Colin Riley today, yes, we will continue to
advocate
on this one.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
My second question was, when I was at the Huon show, I was talking to the SES, and I just was thinking, they do such incredibly good work, and I know that they've got a new influx of younger volunteers, and I was wondering whether council would be in a position to run some sort of thank you event to thank the SES for all the work they do down here. It's really thankless, and I think it would be really encouraging.
Yeah, I know that after the floods, the last lot of floods, I sent a letter to them and thanked them for that, and they were very appreciative. Of being recognised to the fact of what they do, and we have so many council people that work that volunteer onto that SES, so we can definitely look at
I mean, perhaps expand it to all volunteer emergency services people.
Absolutely.
I mean, they all have close links anyway, but I think that's a good idea. We'll go have a look.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problems. Thanks for that. Yes, Councillor Armstrong.
Sorry, just one more question, which is a bit unrelated to any other question or comment. I think I raised this a long time ago, maybe when I first sort of, became a councillor. The main road of Huonville still doesn't have any disability parking. I know we've talked about there being parking in the car parks, constantly watching struggling people that aren't able-bodied entirely trying to get across the road. Is there anything that we can do to get some disability parking in the main street of Huonville? I don't believe there is a disability parking spot anywhere in the main street of Huonville. I might be wrong, but I haven't seen one.
Not in the main
Not in the main drag, which leaves the parking behind the centres or off the road.
Yeah.
People that are on walkers or crutches or unable to walk cannot make it from the back to the front, and it's quite busy. I just really think that we should have at least 1 or 2 parking spots either side of the main drag. And I don't know why, it just seems a bit strange to have a drag with no disability parking.
Yeah.
It is usually off the main drag to provide adequate space for people of all abilities to get out of the vehicle safely. On the main road, obviously, you'd be straight into traffic or straight onto up onto the footpath. But thank you for the question. I'll take it on notice and come back to you about it.
Because most of our off-street parking is a long way away from eateries or coffee places or where they might need to park. And I get what you're saying, but I just thought, is there a place somewhere where it's wide enough to perhaps allow for a car door to open?
And that's what we'll need to consider. What are the options? Because there's a reason why they're off the main road, but you raise a very good point.
It's just, people, I always stop. I'm sure everybody does stop for people trying to get out. But even people with doors flinging open, they'll still fling their door open because if they can't get a park anywhere, they'll just take the risk of losing the door effectively. So if we could provide maybe think about giving them a space where it's not too far away from everything, perhaps. Yeah. I'm not sure that's a difficult one, but I'll just leave it with you, Lockie.
Sure. Thank you. Yep.
And
Thank you.
and having someone that's in a wheelchair in our family, I understand both sides of that. Getting Lockie out on a street would be a little hard, but
Even perhaps I was thinking. Sorry, just to continue on. I was just thinking maybe even next to the IGA to have a couple of disability parking spaces close to the footpath.
Yeah.
Because then they wouldn't have to start from right over the back. I just thought to bring some equality into the equation.
No, definitely.
And make it, easier for some people.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks for that. Okay. That's a good round of questions, thank you. All right. 13.4, Councillor notices of motion. We have a notice of motion tonight from Councillor Canberra-Smith. Are you happy to move the motion as included in the report?
Yes, Mayor.
Do I have a seconder for... Yep, Councillor Gibson. Councillor Canberra-Smith, would you like to speak to yours, please?
Do you want me to read it?
Yeah.
Okay. Council resolves to A, undertake the budgeted 100k rates review in the 2023-24 financial year for implementation from 1st of July 2024. B, consult on the 24-25 budget to better understand community priorities and appetite for different costed projects. And C, include a customer satisfaction survey, either as part of the budget consultation or with the 24-25 rates notices. I'm heartened by the GM advice to support this motion. And the reason I put this forward this month is because we'd received an email on the 18th of October advising that the rates review project wouldn't go ahead this financial year owing to the extra work involved in addressing the funding proposal for combined TFS and SES, and I think it's also in the general reports. However, we have now made our position clear on those proposed reforms, and a working group's being created to discuss options. So, and importantly to me, my acceptance of our rates rise at the beginning of this financial year was very much conditional upon the rates review being undertaken in this financial year, and because I felt there were ways in which we could have better spread the burden of rates between different categories of rate payers, but we were advised at the time this would require a more detailed review, which is the nature of this project. So we now have a new director, and the money budgeted would enable us to draw on specialist external expertise. We've had discussions in the past about budget consultation and a customer satisfaction survey, and this motion just helps to formalise these projects as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any other? Yes, Councillor Jessup?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just working this backwards. So if we start our budget process in, April-ish, that will be requiring us to understand what the rate review will be like. So if we want to get changes of rating or something by
We'll be before April.
Yeah, okay, I'm being generous, Mayor. But where we get down to the tin tax, we really want to know by April in order to get the 1st of July rating in. So I'm just wondering, have we actually genuinely missed the boat on this study? I'm not, and I voted for the study, but yeah, we would have to be doing that now in order for it to be done by a consultant, in order for it to get to a workshop for us to talk about it, in order for it to have any effect. And I'm not expecting necessarily an answer, but I'm just, is it too late to get that for the 1st of July? I don't necessarily disagree with starting it this year, but I'm just very aware of we put staff under a lot of pressure, and 1st of July is believe it or not, is getting much closer than we think.
Absolutely. Yeah. So look, if we thought we couldn't do it, the advice would be different. It is definitely a stretch, and we need to be commencing this right now. So along with the budget setting processes. So there is a lot on, but it is an important piece of work. That's the advice. So we'll be working through that. If we have a problem like any project, we'll come back to you as that develops.
Okay, do I have any other? Yeah, you can have a comment.
Thank you, through Mayor. I just have another comment. I just want to be vocal today. I actually agree with Jenny. Like, we did put the rates up and people were stretched, and we've made them just stretch that little bit more, and it was discussed about having this review, and I know it's a difficult thing to do, but we did have conversations about doing this, and I feel like if we can possibly push it out, and apologies to staff, we probably should really try to, because we have put some hardships on people with the expectation that it might not be a permanent hardship. So if we can just sort of ease that burden a bit, I'd really like to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
No apologies to staff. This was on the agenda, working through it, and we had to respond to the urgency of the proposed emergency services levy. Same staff needing to prioritise, so that was that advice. That has consumed a whole bunch of time. It's now been that's been deprioritised by the state government, thankfully. So we're back and just trying to recover ground here.
Okay. Do we have any other? No. Do you want to close, Councillor Campbell-Smith?
No, just commend the motion to the meeting.
All right. Well, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all, councillors, and the motion is carried. Okay. Agenda number 15.039/23, proposed schedule of ordinary meetings of council and annual general meeting dates for 2024. I refer the councillors to the recommendation of this report. Do I have a councillor to move the motion? Councillor Thorpe, and a seconder. Councillor Gibson. Councillor Thorpe, do you wish to speak to this? No? Any other comments on this? No? Well, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all, councillors, and the motion is carried. Agenda number 15.040/23, draft Tasmanian Fire and Emergency Services Bill for 2023. I refer the councillors to the recommendation of this report. Do I have a councillor to move the motion? Councillor Campbell-Smith, a seconder. Councillor Armstrong. Councillor Campbell-Smith, do you wish to speak to this one?
No, thank you. I'm very happy with the submission that we've put together, and I don't need to talk about it more.
Yeah, I'm pretty proud that we stuck to our grounds and went out to the public on this, and that they've took it back to have another look. And honestly, the reasoning for it, I fully support. We have a major issue and we need to correct it, but not in one hit the way that it was going to happen. So, yeah, well done to the staff for jumping on and getting that out.
I mean, it's worth noting this was the first council that took it on and did the actual modelling to test what was going on, and we jumped on that. We shared it with our peers. We shared it with the minister, and as others started to test their own data, the groundswell built. So I'm really proud of the team for getting that done.
Yeah. So, well done to everyone. Yes, councillor.
Can I just ask a question? Because I'm generally disappointed in the lack of consultation that this process had with the local government sector.
Yeah.
What consultation was the Huon Valley Council part of or invited to be part of before the submissions paper was released?
We did receive that letter and it went, it was,
Through you, Mayor, I can't remember exactly all the stages, but there was certainly officer submission made on it, but this is the first time we've actually had an opportunity to have a comment on what the actual model was. That wasn't apparent in any previous discussions.
Yes. So, in the end, going back to the drawing board, I think, and coming up with a better way of trying to do this was the best thing. Yeah. So, do I have any other comments on that? No? You don't want to close? All right. All those in favour of this report, please raise your hand. That's all councillors, and the motion is carried. Agenda number 15.041/23, draft managing unacceptable customer behaviour policy and procedure and administrative review and update of customer service charter. I refer the councillors to the recommendation. Do I have a councillor to move the motion?
So Mayor, I would like to suggest that we defer this to the next meeting, because I think there's still a little bit more discussion. I do understand that it's a really, really important issue for staff, and while I would ask that staff just bear with us, because there's been quite a bit of email discussion. I think we just need to nail it down just a little bit more.
So what are you moving?
So I would move a deferment to the next meeting. Is that right?
Yes.
Through you, Mayor, that the matter be deferred and just based on discussions that have been held for the for a workshop to be held to discuss the matter.
Yeah, thank you. Exactly what I was thinking, and exactly what my seconder over there was going to say.
All right. So do we need a seconder? Councillor Gibson. Okay. Any other comment around that? No. Okay. No discussion. He didn't actually say he wanted to do a, but anyway. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Thank you. Agenda number 15.042/23, review of statement of expectations. I refer the councillors to the recommendation. Do I have a councillor to move the motion? Councillor Jessup and a seconder. Councillor Gibson. Councillor Jessup, do you wish to speak?
Mayor, thank you. We had a very good... Huh? A rhetorical question, did you say? Thank you, Mayor. I think to move something you need to say a few words. But look, we had a very good discussion about this as a group of councillors, and I think what we came up with the end is that this was a piece of documentation that was relevant at a point in time. We are not that point in time, and I think despite the fact that yes, we have banter and we don't always agree, I think the way we conduct ourselves is quite clear for the community to see, and I don't think we need an imposed statement of expectation to tell us how to have our cups of tea and coffee. Thank you, Mayor.
Is there any other comment on that? No? All right. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all councillors, and the motion is carried. Now is it? Yeah. The urgent matter? Yep. No, I haven't. Thank you. Okay. Agenda number 15.043/23, Development Assessment Panel DAP Framework Position Paper. I refer the councillors to the recommendation. Do I have a councillor to move the motion? Councillor Armstrong and seconded Councillor Campbell-Smith. Do you wish to speak to this?
Just briefly, Mayor.
Yeah.
I'm a bit terrified that if any of this were to eventuate, then council would lose not control, but authority, I guess, over what it could and couldn't do for the best interests of its town. You know, what's the point in us having a planning authority if we want to plan ahead and then somebody else walks in and goes, no, you're just going to do it this way. I think we know planning best. It's our town, you know, contrary to what the powers that be might think. I would like to see us not go down that path. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have... Yes, councillor?
Just a comment. I mean, I think that I can only speak for our council, but I think it's likely any decisions that we make as a planning authority are likely to be much less political than something being removed through a DAP sort of process and taken off to state government.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Campbell-Smith.
Yeah, I find it extraordinary. I mean, people complain a lot about the slowness of planning applications, but it's clear that Tasmania is actually performing considerably better than all the other states. So why actually make the length of time quite likely longer? Because unless somebody's going to go to appeal, going through the DAP process is likely to be a much longer process. And it seems like a roundabout way of taking communities' concerns out of the equation, and that worries me. So,
yes, Councillor O'Neill.
Look, I agree with everybody's statements, but at the same time, I think we do have to acknowledge there are some frustrated owners out there and builders, and I'm not saying I've got the answers, but I think we still do have to try and achieve simpler outcomes and a bit less complicated, and keep the cost down if we can on some, from my experience, pretty simple applications have been quite lengthy. So, yeah, agree with everybody, but I think we still have to make our customers a bit more happier.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Jessup, and then Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I congratulate Director Grimsey for his paper done on pretty quick turnaround, and I think he actually could have gone in quite a bit harder. Yeah, as was mentioned, we are getting things done within the timelines that we expect, and looking at our results in the FOGO papers, Huon Valley is actually quite in the middle of the pack as well, quite good. What the paper does highlight is a whole series of other hold-ups in the planning authority, like TASCAT. So why the government doesn't look to its own stable and fix the cost and the overly bureaucratic layers that TASCAT offer. And this seems just to offer an additional layer of bureaucracy in the process. We're doing the assessment work, but then we have to explain it to somebody else to do more. I do, and I also just, there's no evidence of political process in the paper, and if the government wants to make the allegation that we're all being nasty and political, well, they need to name it up and show it up. In terms of the practicality of the paper, I'm concerned that they're quite small projects. $5 million for a regional project gets into the process. Interesting that they've removed all social housing, or they're suggesting to put all social housing through the DAP. And yeah, we've had some quite good discussions to before we approve social housing that improves them, including not letting them release their wastewater into their neighbours' properties and so forth, and that's our job, and we should be doing that. I will make a comment in support of Councillor O'Neill. I think in that resolving issues associated with requests and responses to further information, look, I don't think any council, and ours particularly, can take the high moral ground in this. During the election process, we heard lots of people saying that. But yeah, we've also recognised that, and we are, when we get the new LPS, whenever that is, we are going to invest in IT systems that will hopefully speed it up for people, be more clear and transparent on what they want, and I think that will speed up the process. But again, the government could easily add a preliminary determination mediation type process at TASCAT level, and if people think they're getting asked too many questions, there should be a cheap and easy way that they can get that adjudicated. But the structures and legislation exists to allow that. They don't need another bureaucracy. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Thorpe.
I'd actually like to second the Local Government Association of Tasmania's President's comments on this matter, and also note that I think support his comments that local government's probably been taken a little bit for granted, and this process has been focused on the wrong priorities, on actually how do we make the development process better and more streamlined. So in general, I don't support the introduction of DAPs and supportive of the draft submission. But also would argue that the position paper actually lacks evidence to why this has to be introduced and why this would be a good decision. And I'll be the first to say that I'm not an expert in planning whatsoever, but a concern that I had from reading that position paper is the potential conflicts of interest if panel members actually are from industry in taking away that community voice. So I think that's an important aspect from my opinion.
Thank you. All right. So, you're right?
I agree with what we've said so far. I think we need more support to provide more technical resources to work within the existing structure, as mentioned in the report.
Thank you. Okay. Do you want to close?
Just quickly, I think everyone's made really good points, and I think if we can go back to, like, local government has become a drop box pretty much for a lot of different tiers of government's problems, and I think if we can just sort out our own problems, get our own planning structure working quite well with whatever tools that we will have, it should flow quite nicely eventually. Like, we're working on it, we're getting there. It's been a bit of a backlog, but it's happening. And the part of the reason planning is slow is because we have to then jump through all the other hoops, and then we wait on those hoops, and it just becomes a big issue. To throw somebody else in the mix would be a total disaster in my opinion. So I think the government probably needs to start listening to local government a little bit more, because we sort of know what's going on mostly. Thank you.
Okay, all right. So no other debate, and I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. It's all councillors, and the motion is carried. Okay. Agenda number 16.019/23, financial report. I'll refer the councillors to the recommendation of this. Do I have a councillor to move the motion? Yes, Councillor Jessup. Seconder? Councillor Gibson? Do you wish to speak to this, Councillor Jessup?
Not particularly the motion. Not particularly the
The
motion,
recommendation,
Mayor,
sorry.
but no, I support the recommendation, but I will ask a question when we debate it, please. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, well, you can.
Okay, that's easy. Look, and well done on the forecast. Is certainly the right side of where we were, so it's good. But I notice on the depreciation and amortisation, we're $266,460 less favourable than we were forecasting. Is there a particular reason for that?
Pass that through you to, yes?
Through you, Mayor?
Yeah.
So just to give you a bit of background as to why it's changed from the forecast, each asset class is revalued on a 3-year cycle, and the predicted change in depreciation is forecast in the long-term financial plan. The Auditor General reviews the financial statements each year prior to issuing the Memorandum of Audit findings. Well, this year, as a result of the review of the Auditor General, we were required to index some assets that were not revalued. So that was an unexpected requirement. This result is an increase in the fair value of assets, and hence an increase in the depreciation for the 23-24 financial year than what we were expecting. This revaluation and subsequent depreciation was included in the long-term financial plan, but we have had it brought forward a year earlier than expected.
Thank you for that. That's great. Yes, do we have any other? Yes, Councillor Gibson?
I just was wondering whether the Director could clarify the 481,593 extra in employee benefits. I just wondered how much of that is due to, it's supposed to be timeframes for new positions, and also, I mean, I understand the locum for the doctors issue, but the other part of it, I don't know, and I don't know what the breakdown is of those two.
Okay, thank you. I think, yeah, oh no, I'll pass it through to the Director, if you're right. Yeah.
Through you, Mayor. The majority of that amount is due to vacant positions. We do have and have been carrying a few vacant positions over that period. They are also year-to-date expenditures, so they are a little bit fluid in terms of how we've equated the budget, but the majority of them are around vacant positions, which we're obviously looking to fill.
Thank you.
Do we have any other? No, Councillor. Oh yes, Councillor Russell.
I'm not entirely sure. I've got myself confused. So we are talking about, is this what we're talking about here?
Yes.
Yes, we are, okay. Because there was a closed council one and I just didn't want to go there unless we were going there.
Yeah.
So this is a really simple banking question, and that sounds really stupid after what I've just asked you. But I was looking at the funds that are invested. I presume they're invested, aren't they? Term deposits. Why are some only invested for 5 months and some are invested for 6 months? Who chooses where they get invested? And why do we, I mean, obviously I know why we have them in lots of banks, but who decides where they get invested, and why is some different investment amounts per month than others?
Thank you. We'll pass that
Please.
through to the Director.
Through you, Mayor. A lot of them are aligned with grant funding programs, so that's why they're shorter term. So we're looking to actually pay for those capital works or whatever over that period of time. And there is actually, we have an investment strategy. So it's actually an agreed strategy that we must follow in terms of where, when and how much that we do actually invest our funds in.
Can I just ask a second question?
Yes.
So that policy tells you where, but does council choose which banking organisation, or that is suggested to you in the strategy?
Again, through you, Mayor, it's actually in the investment strategy document as to how much and where we are allowed to place those investments.
Can I ask you why? Just out of interest?
It's mainly through making sure around risk.
Okay.
So making sure that we cover our investments through a risk profile.
So these banks are obviously at less risk than other financial organisations.
Well, there's levels of risk.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
It just struck me as being odd that I saw a pattern, and I just wondered why that was. So thank you very
No
much.
worries.
You will note that it was brought up about investing with Bendigo, and they do now offer a better rate, so that we now have money invested with Bendigo. And the little asterisks and crosses are the ratings. Yes. Yep, so.
Yep, excellent.
Yep.
Thanks for the test of Patty on her first night.
I'm so sorry, Patty, but that's just how my brain works.
That was a good one. Councillor Jess, is there any other questions? No? Councillor Jessup, have you got? Thank you. All right. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all councillors. The motion is carried. 16.020/23, proposal to formalise road names. I refer the councillors to the recommendation. Do I have a councillor to move the motion? Councillor Armstrong. Seconder, Councillor Temby. Councillor Armstrong, do you wish to speak to this?
No, thank you, Mayor. I'm all good.
Okay. Do I have any other councillor? No? Okay. No one speak against? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all councillors. And the motion is carried. 16.021/23, status report outstanding rates debtors. I refer councillors to the recommendation of this report, and that is that the report on outstanding rates of debtors be received and noted. Do I have a councillor to move the motion? Councillor Armstrong and Councillor Gibson. Councillor Armstrong, do you wish to speak to this?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Any other conversation about this? Councillor Thorpe?
I just have a general question noting that the debt recovery agency was appointed over a year ago. I was just wondering if there'd been a review on the efficiency of that particular agency, or good reviews, bad reviews, that kind of thing, in how that's going.
Yeah, if I can go through to the Director.
Through you, Mayor, that's currently underway at the moment. So I'm actually assessing and analysing their performance in relation to the contract. So that is currently being undertaken.
Okay. Do I have any other? Yes, Councillor Armstrong?
So that just prompted my brain to think of something else. So with the debt recovery, what percentage of the recovery do they keep? Does it say somewhere? Did I miss that? I must have missed it somewhere. It doesn't matter. But they do keep a percentage, don't they?
Yes.
Plus fees and costs. So does that mean that by the time we recover the debt and the rates that are not paid and pay them, we don't actually have a huge amount of money left from that procedure?
Oh, no, it's not that much. No.
It's still worth.
Can we take that? If we'll find that for you.
I just wondered because I was just interesting because there's quite a lot outstanding, isn't there?
There you go. I think he's found it.
Oh look, there you go. That's quite a bit then, isn't it? 69,000 out of 337,000 for recovery of debt. That is quite a substantial amount, isn't it?
Better than not recovering it.
Well, that's right. Better than, I was curious. That's all. Thank you. Thank you. Yep. We'll just go back to the director for yes. Yep. Yep.
So, through you, Mayor, that's why we're actually undertaking the analysis and review at the moment. We want to understand what that looks like and whether that is good return on funding, because it has been a year or so now, so that we can have a look at that. The other thing I do want to do is give a shout out to the rates and the finance team. They have undertaken a lot of work and a lot of chasing up in relation to those debtors, and that's why we have such a good outcome for the 23-24 rates collection.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Do we have any other? No? Councillor Armstrong, do you want to close?
Good, thank you, Mayor. I think I've said enough.
All right. That's fine. Okay, well, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all councillors, and the motion was carried. 16.026/23 HR Policy Review. I refer councillors to the recommendation of this report. Do I have a councillor to move the motion? Yes, Councillor Jessup. And a seconder, Councillor Gibson. Would you like to speak to that, Councillor Jessup?
How many Hail Marys do I need to say, Mayor? Look, it's down to me at the moment on this one. It's sitting on my desk. We have been a little bit busy with the untimely departure of the General Manager, has taken up a bit of time, and I did talk to Ray, whose surname I've forgotten, the Manager of Human Resources, about, and we've been in dialogue around some of the policy issues coming out of it anyway, but we decided it was going to be unreasonable to do anything before February with, given that through December we're selecting a General Manager, and yeah, that's just, there's going to be no spare time. So I promise that my two fellow committee members will make me get it done with them by February, won't we, team? Who team? Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Do I have any other comments on that? No? Just that you will make sure he's... Yes, lovely. Yes. Support the fact that you're going to ask him to work hard. Okay. All right. So if there's no other comment and no one to speak against, I'll put the motion. Those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all councillors, and the motion is carried. Okay. 19.060/23. We're about to move into closed council, so I'd like to thank those in the gallery tonight for attending and those watching at home. The annual general meeting will be held in the Town Hall on Wednesday the 13th at 6 p.m, and the next meeting of the ordinary meeting of council is on Thursday the 14th, the next at 6 p.m. The recommendation is that the meeting now be closed to the public at 7:38. Pursuant to Regulation 15 of the meeting procedures regulations to discuss the following matters. Do I have a councillor to move to go into closed? Councillor Thorpe. A seconder, Councillor Jessup. All those in favour? That's all councillors. Thank you very much for attending. Don't forget your jacket. No. No worries. Thanks for coming. See you, Amy. Bye, Caleb. Thanks, Liz. Thank you. I advise that in accordance with the Huon Valley Council's audio recording of council meeting policy, recording of the open session of this meeting ceased at